Hey guys, Caleb here with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we're checking out the ROV motorized slider from Rhino. They kindly reached out and asked if I would check this thing out, no strings attached. They also sent along a 10% discount, so if that's something you're interested in, I'll have information for all that stuff in the description. So what is ROV? Well, it's very simply a motorized slider. It goes back and forth, but what makes this motorized slider so interesting is that it's really designed for pro use with cameras like what we're shooting on right now, or use with a phone. And so far, hands down, this has been the easiest motorized app integrated piece of filmmaking gear I've ever used. We'll be covering that in a little bit, but it's great because you pull it out, you set it up in seconds, not even kidding, and you're off to the races. So before we jump into using it, the quality, the pros and cons, all that stuff, let's quickly talk about the different models and what comes in the box or bag if you pick one up. So Rhino sells a couple different versions of the ROV slider. There is the ROV Mobile, which is designed for phone use, and the ROV Pro, which is designed for DSLRs and mirrorless cameras like the ones we use. Now, once you choose to go with either the ROV Mobile or ROV Pro, you can choose one of two sizes. They have the 8-inch model, which is what I have here. Nice, cute little slider, and that is called the Everyday model. And then there is a 16-inch version, which is called the Traveler. So two different sliders and two different sizes to choose from. There's also other little accessories you can pick up along with it, like a nice little backpack, some ND filters and things like that. Looking closer at the slider, you'll notice that it's primarily one solid piece of what I think is aluminum, very, very strong and rigid. The rest of it is made out of various plastic and rubber pieces. And then for the actual drive system, we have a small belt that you can see right there. And you don't have to adjust any of that. It just works. And that really is the story behind this unit. When it comes to operating it, powering it, and controlling your camera from it, we have a couple different things to pay attention to. First, you'll notice a very large status button or power button. If you just tap it, you will get a nice indication of your battery life. This has a built-in battery giving you up to 24 hours of runtime. And if you hold the button down, the unit will power on and give you a blue light. On the side of the slider, right next to that power button, we have a USB connection for charging up the slider, and then a small round plug where you can add cables, which will connect to your camera and give you control over time lapse and things like it. When it comes to mounting the slider, you have a couple different options. On the very bottom, there is a 3/8 and 1/4 20 thread for you to mount it to a tripod, a light stand, really anything. And then there are 2 feet on either end of the slider that have these little locking tabs, so you can keep them compact when you're traveling and then easily unlock and set them up when you're ready to use the slider. If you're using a perfectly flat surface like a table, you can go ahead and not use those. And on the very bottom of the slider, there are just these big rubber pads. So you can just drop this thing on a table and you're good to go. For mounting your camera and adjusting the angle of your camera, there are a couple different accessories depending on which slider you get. The one I have here is for the cameras. So we have a ball head with a simple loosening knob. So as you can see here, you can close it up really nice and slim, and then open up the ball head when you're ready to start filming. This ball head has a proprietary quick release with a little button that you press to remove the plate. You can easily add it to your camera, it has a little thumb screw on it, and then your camera easily snaps on and off. Operation of this was great. I wasn't really that excited about something this proprietary though. Now you can use your own ball head, but it's going to require an extra accessory, which I'll have in the description. Essentially, you can unthread this entire ball head and then get one of these little female light stand adapters that I found, thread that on, and then thread on another 1/4 20 to 3/8. And at that point, you can mount any head you want. So if you want a different ball head, a little pan tilt, that would work just fine. I would be wary of heavier heads, as this thing is very specifically designed for lightweight use, so I wouldn't be throwing anything huge on it. I had no problems using an A6500 with a cage, my A7 III, even the Fuji X-T3 with a lens, so for most situations, you should be okay. I wouldn't recommend throwing an Arri Alexa on it, but it should get the job done for these smaller cameras. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about actually using this thing, and I'm going to show you how fast it is to get this up and running. So let's say we walk into a room, I set this on the table. All I have to do is turn the thing on by holding the button. It will kind of slide to the start position as you see there. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my phone and I'm going to open up the Rhino or ROV motion app. And once I have that open, two options will pop up on the screen. I can connect to a camera mode or a phone mode where the phone will be talking with the slider. So we're gonna go ahead and go with the camera mode, pretending we have a camera on here, which we don't at the moment. It'll connect to the slider, and then we'll have a very simple and very effective app for controlling the slider. So we have a couple basic controls like duration or the ramp. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to the fastest mode possible, which is 8 seconds. You'll notice when I adjust the ramp, which just essentially adds a roll off on either end of the slider, that'll essentially change the max speed or minimum speed, as you can see here. So at 0 ramp, we can do 6 seconds. I'll go ahead and start this for us, and you'll see it's going to slide very quickly. We have a nice countdown on the iPhone app. And there it is, all done. Now we can add a ramp, so I'll just do 100% to show you what that looks like, and I'll hit start again. It's gonna start real slow, and then around the middle, it's gonna be at its fastest point, and then slow down again. So that's really it. From here, you can customize things like turning on and off a loop, move it from a home position to the end position. So I'll tap end and it'll just go all the way to the other end if that's where I want to start. Pretty simple stuff. Now you'll notice there isn't a lot of fine tuning, so I can't go in here and say, okay, stop the slider right in the middle. I have to use the full range, which is a little unfortunate. Another thing I should mention at this point is you cannot use this as a traditional slider. It is only used when you're using the phone and you have everything connected. So you can't just grab the carriage and start sliding it back and forth manually. You have to use the app. Luckily, it's super easy. As you guys saw, I didn't have this all hooked up and programmed to this particular unit. It just worked. As long as Bluetooth is turned on your phone, it'll just grab this thing and you're off to the races. Another really cool feature, and one that's just amazing, is if I set this up for a really long slide here, let's do 33 seconds. I'm gonna hit start, and then I'm going to completely quit the app. It's gone. I'm even gonna turn Bluetooth off, and you'll notice it's still going. So if you have a really long setup going on, either a time-lapse mode or if you're just gonna have this loop back and forth, you don't have to stay connected with your phone. You can completely walk away, leave the location, come back, and as long as the slider has power, it's still good to go. If I restart the app while it's in this loop mode, I'll hit connect again, and it should show me my remaining time, which you can see here. So really nice that they've made this work so well with or without the app. You can start it with your phone and walk away. I'll go ahead and stop this setup right here, and we'll talk about the different modes and a couple other things with the phone app. You'll see we have a power indicator at the top right, so we can see how much juice we have left on the actual unit, which is great. I'm going to switch it from live motion over to time-lapse mode. And just like you've probably seen on other devices, you can go ahead and customize a ton of settings here and get a nice time-lapse going with this unit. So pretty slick stuff, and that's just using this with a traditional camera. When you hook your phone up to it, you can do a ton there as well. Time lapses, slow motion. I actually really like this app just for filming. It gives you a lot of manual controls, which is phenomenal. So if you are big into iPhone use, then that would work great. One thing I love doing was using it with a phone, having it tilted down and getting nice close-up detailed shots at a table. And that brings me to how I liked using this, who I really think it's for, and some things I didn't really care for. So the beauty with ROV is that it does a couple things, unfortunately not more, but it does those things perfectly. It is a simple from start to finish slider. There's no pan and tilt, but it does that really, really well. And I have way more advanced motion control systems here in the studio, but often I don't bring them out because I know there's a bunch of setup time involved with getting shot set up. With this guy, I would just plop it on a table using the little rubber feet on the bottom, and I'm off to the races. It worked flawlessly at that. So if you keep that in mind, I think this is the perfect YouTuber slider, especially if you film a lot of B-roll product shots like I do. This thing gives you really easy and quick camera movement to add a little spice to your videos. And it's repeatable, which is really cool. So you can do all kinds of tricks like duplicating one object over and over and over, filming it multiple times, stitching it together in post. There's tons of different uses for ROV. So as long as you understand the limitations of this device, I think you'll be pretty happy with it if you pick one up. I would love to see something around this size with a pan and tilt down the road. That would be amazing. And if it can have the same flexibility and ease of use that ROV has, take my money. So that's going to do it for my review of the ROV slider. If you want to save 10% and pick one up, you can check that information out in the description below. Otherwise, you can watch fresh videos here at DSLR Video Shooter every single Tuesday with live streams on Wednesdays. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.